Hello there and welcome to Artist Endeavour, the channel where I endeavour to make you a great artist. Okay, so this video is about how to draw the eye. So I will be showing you how to draw the eye at 3 different angles. The front view, the side view, and how to draw the eye at the 3/4 view. What I'll also be showing you is, while at the 3/4 view, there is more of a tighter angle where the outer eye overlaps the edge of the head, and drawing the angle can be difficult due to a lack of understanding the eye shape. So that aspect of the eye can cause a lot of problems, so hopefully my tutorial will clarify a few things. Okay, so we'll start with the most basic, easiest angle, and that is the front view of an eye. Okay, so what you've seen on the screen there is a typical basic beginner drawing of an eye. So there's a few common misconceptions and thus errors appear. Okay, so when people draw this version of an eye, what they are trying to do is they're trying to make the left side and the right side symmetrical. What I mean by this is that the points are in line with each other. If you refer to one of my earlier videos, I demonstrate that there are 3 general type of eye shapes, and one of them is where the corners are in line with each other. However, it doesn't mean the eye shape is symmetrical on the left side and the right side. It's quite ironic because for someone that doesn't have an understanding of eye shapes, they will try to make the eye look perfect by making the eye perfectly symmetrical, which ironically makes it unrealistic. So to actually draw something realistic doesn't necessarily mean you have to draw it perfectly, if you can get what I mean. So that's the first problem, and the second problem is there's no eyelid crease. So basically it's where the eyelid is open, and so the flesh of the eyelid folds and produces a crease above and below the eye. The crease below the eye is less defined as the one above. And lastly, the main common problem with first timers drawing the eye is they subconsciously think the opening of the eye rests right on top of the iris and on below the iris, but in reality the eye doesn't rest this way. Although you can get an eye to open such as this, but only when the character is surprised or startled. But as a resting neutral expression, the upper eyelid falls a little bit and covers the top quarter of the eye. Okay, so having said all this, I will start a little speed paint of how to draw the eye. So I will describe what's going on as it plays. Okay, so naturally, as I said before, you start with the circle. Now this circle is the actual eyeball, so not the eye shape, not the shape of the eyelids or the hole where the eye looks through. It's the actual eyeball behind all the fleshy face. So just got to make sure it's as circular as possible. Okay, so once that's done, then you can draw in the eye shape. So what I've opted here is a high corner eye, which means the outer corner of the eye is higher than that of the inner corner. Okay, so when drawing the eye shape, make sure you're wrapping the shape around the circle as if it is a sphere. So you're making sure the eye shape is nicely tight and curved as if it's being wrapped around a sphere. That's one of the main keys to drawing a realistic eye. So I'm just refining the shape. Notice that I've put the tear duct on the left side here, just the outline of the tear duct, and the outer corner is in line with the actual eyeball. It doesn't protrude past it, so it's within the eyeball circle. Now, as I've mentioned in a previous video, the eye shape is extremely important, so That's why I'm spending a little bit of extra time trying to refine the shape, trying to make the lines of the shape flow smooth, no sharp edges or no significant deviations from the smoothness of the line. Okay, so having done that, now I'm placing in the iris. Now to begin with, I've placed the iris, the bottom part, past the eyelid here. So in doing so, it's actually giving the eye a bit of an expression. So the lower eyelid, since it's covering a very small portion of the iris. Okay, let's try that again. The lower eyelid there, since it's covering a very small portion of the iris, it's giving off an impression of an expression. So what I'm aiming to do is paint a neutral, expressionless eye. So that's not a very good placement. I'm not happy that the eye has a little bit of expression there, so I'm just moving the iris up. So the aim for an expressionless eye is to make sure the iris rests on the bottom eyelid. Having done that, I'm just drawing in the eyelid creases, as mentioned before, more pronounced on the upper eyelid crease than the bottom eyelid crease. So now it's time to put some lashes in. Because of the angle of how we see in the eye, which is a front view, the eyelashes will be more vertical the closer to the center of the eye than to the end. The eyelashes on the bottom part of the eye are generally smaller than the upper part of the eye, plus I'm leaving a gap at the bottom as so they don't touch the line art for the bottom half edge of the eye shape, and the reason for that is to suggest a thickness to the eyelid. So generally when looking at an eye at this angle, you can see the thickness of the lower lid rather than the upper lid. Okay, so now it's time to place the details. So them circles are light sources, another line around the circumference of the iris to denote the darker patch of the eye. So a little bit of texture in the middle, very faint suggestion of a shadow from the upper eyelid, and a little bit of detail on the tear duct. Okay, so that's it. That's a basic eye. No toning, just the outline, but still looks detailed enough. Now if we just compare my eye to a beginner's eye, well, you can see the top eye is more detailed, but as I mentioned with the problems on the bottom eye, the corners ain't level. Although that's not necessarily a problem, it's just the shape is not symmetrical from left to right. There's eyelid creases above and below the improved eye, and as you can see, the very top of the iris is being covered by the upper eyelid, so the character looks at rest. The eye is expressionless, so the eye doesn't look surprised or startled. Okay, so now we just take away the detail, so we just keep the same line art as the bottom eye, so you can get a clearer vision of the outline, and the only extra detail is the crease above and below and the tear duct. So you can see the main sense of realism you'll get from the eye would be the eye shape. And the main reason for this is because the eye shape also brings with it the shape of the eyelids, and the eye shape that you see on top there shows a realistic form of eyelids that you can clearly see are able to open and close. Whereas on the bottom reference there, the bottom beginner's eye, the eyelids look like they're a bit awkward to close. The eye shape doesn't suggest a maneuverable set of eyelids. Okay, so now it's time to draw the side view of the eye. The side view of the eye looks quite different to the front view. So you start with basically a triangle shape. So you start with like an arrowhead pointing to the side, depending on which way you want the eye to face. Then as you can see, I've drawn a curved bottom there to make it a triangle, and the curved area is the actual eyeball. The side of the eye won't require as much detail as the front view, the iris does fall back a little bit into the eyeball, and the line above the edge of the eye hole is the eyelid crease. Just flip the image there, make sure the eye doesn't get skewed. So now I'm just refining the shape. So it's more basic in terms of details. Okay, so just curving the line up at the top there, because that's generally where the that part of the upper eyelid ends. Okay, so just refining the iris shape. Okay, so the lashes. Now, from this angle, most of the time the eyelashes will point downwards and obscure a little bit of the eyeball. So also from this angle, the ridge along the bottom edge of the eyelid won't be as easily visible as that of the front view. Now I'm just adding in the dark area of the iris. Okay, so now the pupil doesn't go right to the surface, since the eye is just a lens. So there's a bit of a transparent front area to the surface of the eye, which I'll use this picture of my cat to demonstrate an exaggerated bulbous effect, as well as where the eye elements are situated, just as a rough example. Okay, so now I'm just going over the eyelashes and sharpening the edges, stopping, trying to get rid of the furry look to the lashes. So the only thing to add now is a little bit of the light source. And looking at the lashes, I think I'll add a bit more to the top area, just because from this viewpoint, that's where the lashes will appear to clump together on the top area, because there will be more lashes in that area from the angle we're looking at. So that's it, that's the side view of the eye. So it's a pretty simple triangular start with a circle between the two lines. That's pretty much the basic shape of it. There's no need to draw the whole circle of the eyeball in this case. Okay, so now I will draw an eye from the 3/4 angle point. So basically at a diagonal angle. So as always, just start with a circle. So now I will be drawing a head to place the eyes in. Okay, so I put the center line to the side, so the character will be looking at a diagonal angle to the right. I'll add in the side circle, so that tells me the orientation of the head, as well as denoting the side of the head, producing more of a three-dimensional shape there. So the line goes past the circle. Just placing in the chin. Neck. Eyeline. It's a bit too high there, so I will just lower it. So instead of drawing circles this time, I will be drawing the eyes flat or two-dimensionally. So I will do this first, and then I will show you the technique that I will normally use, which I have been showing you, which is using the circle guidelines. And the idea is just to show you the difference in accuracy and realism when using either method. So most people do use the flat two-dimensional eye shape, which is basically just drawing the eye without any guidelines really. So I mean, if you have the skill to do it, then sure, you can quite easily draw eyes two-dimensionally, and as you can see, yeah, they look good enough. They do look good enough. However, I do reckon that using the circle guideline or the sphere guideline is really the best way to go, because it's far easier. You don't have to use your imagination as much to try and get a realistic placement or accurate eye, and you have a very low risk of getting a two-dimensional flat effect, as if the eyes are just stickers on a face. But let's see what the eyes look with the guidelines this time. So as I mentioned before, the key is to think of the circle as a sphere once you start drawing the outline of the eye. Just refining the eye shape. Okay, and as you can see, as I'm flicking back and forth, the eye placement is actually different. As you can see, the eyes actually look like they settle within their head rather than being stuck on. So I think using the guidelines just for that reason alone is actually worth implementing. Okay, so now we'll discuss the angle at which the outer eye overlaps the edge of the head, which can cause problems in drawing a realistic eye shape at that angle. So the reason being is because you need to take into account the form of the eyelids, and if you use the circle guideline, the form would be a lot easily achievable. If you used a two-dimensional flat drawing, it would be next to impossible, because you'd just be redrawing the eye to be three-dimensional anyway, really. You can see the eyelids actually poking out at the edge of the head there. So this is why this angle is very difficult to illustrate. This is why understanding the shape of the eye is paramount. And there's a render, so you can actually see a little bit of toning and shading to actually further illustrate the form of the eyelids along with the lashes there. Okay, so now I'm going to recreate that using the circle guidelines. So I'm just creating the correct shaping of the edge of the head there. I would recommend making sure the head shape is accurate before placing any facial features. That's really the best way to go, because if the shape of the head's wrong, then your facial features will always be wrong, regardless how realistic they're rendered. Okay, so I'm just placing the shape, and as you can see, it's wrapped around the eyeball, because from this angle you will not see the outer corner of the eye. If you're drawing two-dimensionally or drawing flat, you will always see the corner, even if it would be obscured with the actual eyeball. Now, this is why drawing three-dimensionally is very important. Okay, so the edge of this circle again is in line with the edge of the eye again. So I'm just drawing the eyelids, the form of the eyelids at the edge. Okay, so getting rid of the guideline. Now that I'm going to be drawing a bit of a width to the eyelid, as I illustrated a little bit with the eyelashes on the first frontal view picture, but because of the angle you'd actually see the flesh actually wrap around the eye there. Okay, so with the eye shape done, I'm generally happy with that. Now it's time to place the detail. Okay, some eyelashes. I'm not going to bother drawing the other eye because that's not the focus. Okay, so I think that's it. So that looks realistic. The angle looks good. It doesn't look out of place at all. Just take the lashes off so you can see the shape again, and the eye looks good, realistic. So it looks like the eye has a soul. So let's go back to the two-dimensional eyes. Now gonna have to rotate the whole eyes just to make sure they're in line with the previous three-dimensional eyes since I got the angle wrong, partly because of the two-dimensional nature. So let's see what the flat eyes look like at this angle and how to make the flat eyes actually work here. So as you can see, even though I'm moving the eyes to the side, it's poking out. There's not really anything you can do. It doesn't work. And the only option you have is to make the eyes a bit more three-dimensionally. So I'm using the warp tool to try and bend or wrap the eye over a bit. But the best you can do is just to make the edge of the eye in line with the edge of the head, and that's it. The eyes are never bulbous when using flat eyes, so this is why it's very important to use three-dimensional guidelines. Okay, so that's the end of the video. Thanks for sticking around as long as you have done. Hopefully this should help you draw eyes a lot easier. Pretty much covered the basics there. That's all you need to know to draw realistic eyes. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned because I will have more tutorials in the future. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you wish to. That's it for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.